Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. That was great. Thanks, gentlemen. All other ground is sinking sand. I thank the Lord for His word and for His power in our lives. I want to thank you for being here again tonight.
Yes.
Getting a little colder outside tonight. I hear there's rain coming. It's strength will go away. I was like, ooh, that'd be fun. A little bit chilly outside, but thank you so much for being here tonight. I believe God has a purpose for us.
Amen.
Each and every one of us. You believe God has a purpose for us here at this church?
Hey.
I believe so. I believe God has a specific purpose for each and every one of us. And can I say this? It's not to meet our own needs. Well, that's right there. That's right there. We're not here to meet our own needs.
Right. Hey.
We're here to meet the needs of others. And you know, when I was praying about it and thinking through this, and we have a purpose here for Silver Mountain. We have a purpose. God has us here, in this location, on this property, in this community, in this city, for a reason.
Yes.
And we've got to live like it. I believe we're here to reach individuals and families to the cause of Christ. I believe we're here to disciple men and women in their walk with Christ. I believe we're here to train men and women for ministry.
Hey.
We have a job to do. We have a specific purpose that God called us to do, and we've got to be about it. I was reading in devotion earlier this week, and I started reading through the devotion. I said, oh, man, I claimed it as my own, but it was good. Matthew 16 through 18 says this, and Simon Peter answered and said, Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus answered and said to him, Blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. I say also to thee, that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church. The gates of hell shall not prevail against it. We start off with those verses, and then he continues on. And this is the devotion I'm reading, but it's powerful thought here. And it led me into kind of the thinking where we're going with our service tonight. The promise given that the gates of hell would not be able to stand against the church seems somewhat confusing. Churches that once stood strong as lighthouses of the gospel turn from the truth and become liberal and teach false doctrine, or close the doors. Jesus was not saying that every church would remain in existence and be faithful. He was saying that his church would always remain.
Yes.
No matter what opposition arises or what circumstances may come, Jesus will do the work as he promised. It's not really correct to say that we build the church, rather that Christ works in and through our lives to build the church. Our calling is to be available and willing to be used as he sees fit. Rather than seeking fame and glory for ourselves, we should be yielding instruments in his hand to accomplish his purposes. A local church filled with such Christians will be equipped for growth and blessing. I read that this week and I thought, wow, what a challenge put before us. What a challenge put before me to make sure I'm usable, to make sure I'm that person that is available and willing tonight. Now I want you to take the Bible and turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 5. We're going to look at a passage here tonight. If you would, let's stand for the reading of God's Word in honor of His Word. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 9. We'll read verses 9 to 11. We'll have a word of prayer and be seated tonight. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, beginning in verse 9. It says, Wherefore we labor, that whether present or absent, we may be, church, what does it say? Accepted of him. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that everyone may receive the things done in his body according to that he hath done, whether it be good or bad.
Right.
Knowing therefore the care of the Lord, we persuade men. We are made manifest unto God, and I trust also are made manifest in your consciousness. Father, we sure love you tonight. Thank you for your word. I pray that you challenge us with your word tonight, that we may leave stronger, that we may leave closer to you, that we may leave on fire for you in a different way than we came in. Father, I sure thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. Thanks for our guests tonight. I pray that you would bless them, lift them up. I pray there would be encouragement to them. Father, as we go out these doors tonight, may we go out into the world and be that which you have called us to be. Father, available and willing. Christ in we pray. Amen. Thanks, may be seated. Each and every one of us in this room has a desire to be accepted. Whether it be, normally it's among those that we're around, friends, family, co-workers. We have this natural built-in desire to be accepted.
Yes.
But I want to tell you tonight, I want to be accepted of the Lord more than anything else.
Hey.
I believe God would have that be our desire. Each one of us, that we would desire not just to be accepted of friends and family, but to be accepted by Him. We've read the story in Matthew chapter 25, verse 21. His Lord said unto him, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things, I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. We've read that and we've understood that and we focused on that. The fact that we want to hear God say, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. That is the desire that we have to be accepted of Him. To be accepted of Him. Everyone here has that natural desire, but too many times we're simply worried about being accepted by those around. We lose sight of who we should be worried about being accepted by. We lose sight of the fact that we should strive to be accepted by God Himself, recognizing who we live for. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, later on in the same passage, it says this, For the love of Christ constraineth us, because we thus judge. If one died for all, then we're all dead. And that He died for all, that they which live should not henceforth live unto themselves, but unto Him which died for them and rose again. When we turn our lives and we begin worrying about being accepted of others, we begin living for ourselves. We begin living and thinking for ourselves on how we should make decisions, what we should say, according to being accepted by those around us. That's a dangerous, slippery slope to find yourself in. Instead, as Paul is writing to the church at Corinth here, he says we should not live unto ourselves, but unto Him which died for us. Unto Him who we should desire more than anything to be accepted by. We must live for Him. You understand, we are called to be ambassadors for Christ. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 20. Now then, we are ambassadors for Christ, as though God did beseech you by us. We pray you in Christ's stead, be ye reconciled to God. Here, Paul is writing to them, and he says, look, we are ambassadors. We are called to be ambassadors for Christ. Those that would go and represent Him before the world. Before those we work with. Before those that God puts in our path each day. It's not by accident that you run into people at the store. It's not by accident that you run into people at the restaurant. It's not by accident that someone comes and pumps gas next to you at the gas station. We are at that point to be ambassadors for the cause of Christ.
Yes.
God puts nobody in your path by accident. Here in this passage, I began reading and continuing on into chapter 6, though, as being ambassadors. And remember, he's writing to the church at Corinth. I want you to understand, he's giving instructions and instructing the church there at Corinth. And he's teaching them and challenging them and charging them with things that God would have them do. Now, this is all given by the power of the Holy Spirit through Paul to the church of Corinth. As he's writing, he's challenging them. And as we are ambassadors, I want us to look at three things specifically here that he was writing to the church of Corinth. First off, he says this. Look at chapter 6, verse 3. 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 3. It says, giving no offense in anything, that the ministry be not blamed. Unfortunately, today, there seem to be two types of Christian groups out there. Those that just want to love everybody and everything's okay and everything's acceptable. And on the other side, you have those that are so belligerent about what they believe that they're going to cram it down your throat whether you want it or not. You know what I'm talking about. You've seen it. We need to be careful that we give no offense. What is an offense? It's like a charge against. We should not, that there would not be a blame against the ministry. Too many times we see it on the news, we see it reported. Now, I know the news has a one-sided thought about churches and religion. But then you hear the people, the interviews that they choose, where people are blaming the church, blaming Christianity for the things that are done. As we walk, as we talk, as we live, as God puts us in our positions, puts us in our jobs, puts us in our places, allows us to stop, we should live that we don't make it a offense to put blame on ministry. I'm not saying don't stand up for what's right. You know, there's a way you can stand up for what's right in a loving manner. And that makes all the difference. Yeah. Amen. That makes all the difference. When you come to a friend and in love, you say, look, you know you ought not to be doing that. That's one way. Brother, you are just wicked. That's another. Turning your back on it is another. 2 Corinthians 5:20, now then we are ambassadors of Christ. Colossians 4:6, let your speech be always with grace. But it doesn't stop there. Seasoned with salt. See, there's an act there, and we've got to be careful. Giving no offense. Paul is writing here to the church of Corinth, and he's giving instruction, and he's about to explain some things, and he's setting them up to recognize. He's in verse 5, 4, 5, and 6, and 7. He's about to lay on them that folks, they're going to go through some things, and we'll look at that in a minute. They're going to go through many things, but he's charging them now. Hey, live your life as a Christian. Live your life in your walk with God, not just to offend those. There's some that I've known in the ministry and known and just in life that were so offensive every time you're around them that you just didn't want to be around them. How well is that going to do for the cause of Christ? How well are they going to want to, if you will, come to Christ? Once again, I'm not saying that we should slack off on our standards. Not at all. And I'm not saying we should turn away from what we believe. Not at all. But our speech seasoned with grace. Grace sprinkled in. Talking about seasoning food. Grace sprinkled throughout. Seasoned with salt. Making sure there's the truth. Because the truth is going to bite. It's going to bite. It's going to hurt. Salt doesn't feel good in an open wound, does it? But it sure does a lot of cleaning, doesn't it? And as we walk as Christians, our speech should be that which, some people will call it offensive, but it's the truth and love. They can't argue with it. It can't be blamed against the ministry. It can't be blamed against Christianity itself. We've got to be careful about giving no offense. But number 2, we need to be about approving ourselves. 2 Corinthians chapter 6, in the next verse 4. But in all things, approving ourselves as the ministers of God, approving, and he's about to show, look, in all these things, we need to be walking as, if you will, Christians, ministers of God. That word minister literally means one who places themselves under another. Now watch this list. As I was reading this, it kept jumping out to me. I'm just going to read through the verses, beginning verse 4 again. But in all things approving ourselves as the ministers of God. And notice, you're going to see a lot of ins, then you're going to see by, then you're going to see as. Those three words. Okay, now follow me. But in all things approving ourselves as the ministers of God, in much patience, in afflictions, in, in necessities, in distresses, in stripes, in imprisonments, in tumults, in labors, in watchings, and fastings. And he just laid it out to them. Now, I believe God, because of Paul's life, Paul had been through all these things already. And guess what? He was going to face them again. But as he was charging the church at Corinth, he's saying, look, proving ourselves as ministers of God, watch out, he was giving them instruction on how to go through these things. He says, look, you're in much patience and affliction. And listen to that list again. In much patience. Well, that's a tough one to have. In afflictions. Boy, they're coming. In necessities, the needs we have. In distresses, in stripes, being whipped. In imprisonment, in tumult, in labors, in watchings and fastings, in all these areas. Now, he doesn't stop there. Look at the next verse. By pureness, by knowledge, by long-suffering, by kindness, by the Holy Ghost, by love unfeigned, by the word of truth, by the power of God, by the armor of righteousness on the right hand and on the left, by honor and dishonor, by evil report and good report. You see what he's saying here? You're going to go through in these things. You're going to be able to walk as you should walk as Christians, going through these things by these things. That doesn't stop there. As comes into play. As far as an example of this, notice what he begins to say. As, I got to find the place, as deceivers and yet true. He says, look, you're going to go through these things. People are already calling him a deceiver, okay? But he was preaching the truth. As deceivers, and can I tell you, you're going to be facing that, Christians, tonight. Right. We will begin facing this even more and more under the coming of Christ. We're going to be called deceivers, even though we're speaking the truth. He says, he continues on, as unknown and yet well known. Paul was considered a nobody to the religious leaders of that day. He was considered someone they were trying to make a nobody because he was preaching the truth. But yet he was very well known to Christ, to God and Christ. As dying, and behold, we live. How do we get through these things as dead men, although we're living? As chastened and not killed. Recognizing that, look, it's just for a time, it's just for a season, but yet you'll get through it. As chastened and not killed. As sorrowful, yet always rejoicing. Always rejoicing. Yes. Singing. We read the stories of the disciples singing in the jail cell at midnight. The singing and rejoicing. Always rejoicing. As poor, yet making many rich. As poor, look, he didn't have a lot of money, but he made many rich. How did he make many rich? He gave them the gospel of Jesus Christ, which makes us all rich. So we have all these and he continues on. Yet making many rich, as having nothing, and yet possessing all things. Here he begins, he's setting them up and he's recognizing these things, and he's helping them understand the things they're about to go through. In all of these things, you're going to face these, and you get through them by all of these things, and representing as these things. Paul is just training. Christians tonight, he is guiding through his word, is training us, preparing us, that we have to recognize we're going to go through these same things. If not already. And the things that we're going to go into, how we're going to get through them. Notice the things that he said by pureness, by knowledge. The only true knowledge comes from God himself. By knowledge, by long suffering. being long-suffering, by kindness. You ever heard the phrase, showing them kindness? By kindness, by the Holy Ghost. The power that God gives us through His Holy Ghost, living and dwelling within us as Christians, through the Holy Ghost. Through love unfeigned, love unwavering, love that just comes out of us and it doesn't dwindle because of what we're going through. We still show forth Christ's love now through the word of truth. Can I tell you, to get through many things in our lives, this is where we get power for. This is where we gain the strength from, through the word of truth. And by the power of God. God working in our lives, giving us the strength we need to endure, to keep going when it's hard, to not hold back, but to just stand strong through His power. Through the armor of righteousness, that armor that He gives us. We read of it. He gives us so many instructions here. We must be ready, giving no offense. Once again, He's giving them instructions. Trying to prepare them, recognizing they're about to go through this entire list. He's already been through it, and yet He had seen many come to Christ. Why? Because He walked through them, giving no offense or blame to His Savior, Jesus Christ. When He was talking about His ministry, what is the ministry? The ministry is that of giving the gospel of Christ, preaching the word. He says, giving no offense or blame to the ministry. But nothing we do in our lives we want to cause blame or a reproof on the name of Christ. And as we're walking through these things, He's showing us, He's challenging them, and He's challenging us tonight, God, is how to get through these things, how to make it through these things without giving offense, without putting blame on the ministry that God has given. Giving no offense, or proving ourselves, or proving the ministry there, what God's called in our lives. And then He continues on, though, in the end of chapter 6, by saying this, giving no offense, approving ourselves, and then he ends the chapter by separating ourselves. Separating ourselves. Look at verse 17 and 18. Familiar passage. He goes through and he says, be not unequally yoked. And verse 14, and what concord hath Christ with Belial, or what hath he that believeth with an infidel, verse 15. Then he goes on to verse 17, wherefore come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing. And I will receive you, and will be a father unto you, and ye shall be my sons and daughters, saith the Lord Almighty. He desires for us to separate ourselves. He desires for us not to be forced to separate ourselves from the things of this world, but to choose it rather. That's a choice each one of us has to make. I can't force you to make a decision. I can't force you to do something for God. I can't force you. No one here can force you to do anything. Not from your heart, anyway. Not from your heart. And believe me, tonight, God wants us to worship Him. God wants us to do everything we do from a heart of love for Him. Yeah. Here He says, I want you to separate yourself. Separate yourself. In the world that we live in, does God see a difference in you? Does the world see a difference in you? As you're going through all these things, and like I said, each one of us in this room, we're going through different trials, we're going through different things in our life. Each one of us has a little bit different going on. Does the world see that there's a difference in you than another person, not saved, not in church, going through the same issues, going through the same trials? Paul writing to the church of Corinth, and he's begging them, he's pleading with them, making sure that they are focused and ready to be used. We have our work cut out for us. The world is growing dimmer and dimmer. God says it will. And we're going to face many of these things. We're going to face the beatings. We're going to face the tumult. We're going to face the strife. We're going to face all these things. They could be right around the corner, Christians. How are we going to face them? Some of you are going through hardships right now. How are you going to face them? How are you going to get through them? How are you going to cause no offense, no blame on the work of God? How are you going to approve or prove yourself through those as ministers of God? How are you going to prove yourself and prove yourself through them as a Christian? How are you going to stand for the cause of Christ in them? Paul gives us one list. I tell you what, tonight as a church, we will face those things. And we must be charged and challenged to lay fast on God's Word.
Yes.
To recognize the strength and the power of God in our lives. We have to lay hold of that. We have to grasp it. We have to pay attention to it. And then, can I challenge you with this? We must do it together. We must come together. God gives you a body of believers on purpose to gain strength from. Throughout Acts, he talks about they did it in one accord. Yeah, I've heard all the jokes about one accord. There's a lot of people in a car. Thank you for the sympathy laugh. I appreciate it. Here in Acts chapter 2, it says this, and sold their possessions and goods and parted them to all men, as every man had need, and they continued daily with one accord in the temple, and breaking bread from house to house, did eat their meat with gladness and singleness of heart.
Yes.
Folks, for me, I can get into God's Word and I can read it. And I can be challenged by it, and I can see where how God through Paul begins telling me by church, by knowledge, by long suffering, by kindness, by the Holy Ghost, by love and faith, by the word of truth, by the power of God, by the armor of righteousness on the right hand and on the left, by honor and dishonor, by evil report and good report as deceivers. I can go through all that, and I can be challenged, and I can be instructed by that, but it sure helps me when I come alongside of somebody else, and they say, hey, Brother Keith, come on.
Yes.
Hey, Brother Crow, come on. Come on, this is how we do it. Listen, as we approach this new beginning this year, we're going to face hardships. We're going to face many of these things where we're going to have to be patient. We're going to face affliction, necessities. There's going to be times we have needs. There's going to be times where we're distressed. There's going to be times where it says in strife, we're going to feel beat down or in bondage and imprisonment. There's going to be times there's going to be tumult in labors, in watching the fast. All of these things are going to come about this year. Why? Because we will live for God. We're going to face these things. But I'm so thankful that He's given us His Word.
Yes.
That we can come together and we can look at this and we can say, by the word of truth, by the power of God, we'll get through these things. We'll grow stronger. We'll walk closer. We'll gain strength. Tonight, as we look at these truths found in God's Word, as we recognize them, have you been offensive in your walk with Christ? Have you offended some? Have you pushed them away from Christ because of how you've been offended? Once again, I'm not saying to let go of the truth. I'm not saying not to give the truth. words that have been offensive? Have you approved yourself as far as being a Christian? Have you proved it? Have you stood forth in things? Have you shown forth your walk with God? Finally, have you lived a separated life? Have you lived not allowing the world to direct what's right and wrong in your life, for God tells you right or wrong in your life? See, as I look back over this year, I have to ask myself those questions. And beg God to look into my heart and life and tell me, and direct me, and convict me, and change me. Create in me a clean heart, of God. Renew a right spirit within me. Tonight, as we look at these passages, my question is, Paul was challenging the church of Corinth. My question is, as God is challenging us tonight, where do we stand in these three areas? And I want us to be bold, but I don't want us to be offensive. I want us to tell the truth in love. I don't want us to shrink back. I want us to approve our walk with Christ. I want us to prove ourselves as Christians. I want us to take a strong stance in love. Bringing life to you. I have a desire in my life to live a separated life. Living for Him. Living so that, look, I want people, He does call them peculiar people, zealous for your work. I want God to see us as living that way, and I would love for people around